Hello, and welcome to the Disability Myth. My name is Dominic, and I live with a fatal disease called spinal muscular atrophy. Together, my amazing caretaker, co-host, and best friend, Uriel, and I plan to debunk misconceptions, share our personal experiences, and shatter your expectations. But we're not stopping there. We're bringing in experts, thought leaders, and everyday people who are smashing through societal barriers, paving the way for a more inclusive world. Whether you're tuning in to learn, empathize, or simply to be entertained, the show promises to be an eye-opening experience that transcends boundaries. Because when it comes down to it, what makes us different is what makes us extraordinary. Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Disability Myth. I am, of course, your handsome and humble host, Dominic Trevathan, and alongside me is the equally handsome and humble Uriel. So today, we have a very hot take. But before we get into that, we just wanted to go ahead and wish everybody a happy National Disability Employment Awareness Month. That is a very long name. I'll give my 2 cents. I think they should make it shorter. What do you think, buddy?
That gets the point across, but
It does.
are you
Well,
are you saying an abbreviation?
no, they use an abbreviation. I guess I'm just being stinky about it. Because
I mean,
the
is it just a tongue
abbreviation,
twister?
the abbreviation is just people say NDEEM, like the acronym out loud.
And okay,
But I don't know, it's just weird to me. Like, think about it. Like, who says LOL as lol, you know?
yeah, I guess. Yeah, or laughing out loud, or rolling on the floor laughing.
Yeah, roll, roll.
Oh, that made me roll, bro.
Okay, anyways, to get back into a more serious discussion, uh, we're very serious, we swear. National Disability Employment Awareness Month is actually very important. I believe it recognizes the Rehabilitation Act, and it is important to recognize that people with disabilities can work, right?
They
Just
can.
because you live with a disability doesn't mean you're any less capable of working like anyone else.
Oh yeah, I've seen it firsthand. We see you. I,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I looked over Dom's shoulder on a phone with the nursing companies doing homework and then work for the foundation, I believe, while being a full-time student. I remember, man, you put in work.
Put in that work.
I've seen this man do more, like do more or the same amount of work that I would do at a desk job.
What's that song that The Rock does?
The Rock does.
Yeah, the one who's like
It's about
never
power.
never
It's about
yeah.
we stay hungry, we devour. Is that what you remember? But
Yes,
anyway,
that's the one.
I mean,
Anyways,
it's important not to discriminate, just because one has a disability doesn't mean they can't provide meaningful uh work or meaningful what's the term? I'm blanking. Good work, I guess.
yeah, or like I've always thought of it as
Value. There we go.
contributing to
Yes.
society,
Right.
right? My growing up, my father, he was really hard on me and taught me that I'm no different from anybody else. Same with my grandparents, you know. They've all kind of showed me that in order to be successful in this life, you got to earn it, right? And so I'm kind of the firm opinion that regardless of my ability to physically do stuff, there are other ways that I can contribute to society. And that's kind of the one of the backbones of this podcast, right?
Oh yeah.
Clarify those misconceptions. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're talking about here today,
Right. It all
which
boils down to we're all just people, humans, and we all we
exactly,
all we all can contribute,
exactly.
There's always ways to get around physical disabilities in order to contribute the same amount of value as anyone else.
Physical, cognitive,
Oh yeah.
emotional, any with any regard to disability. So that being said, as much as I love to work, I love to
Mm,
go out, I love to do
mm,
things and meet new people.
yeah,
And
that's today's topic.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, people living with disabilities, we do go out, we do have fun, and we do socialize. So the myth for today's episode that I wanted to discuss is this idea that people with disabilities don't go out and meet new people and have fun. And this myth is harmful because it assumes that we live this dark and depressing life. As I mentioned, probably in every episode by now, when in reality we go out and have fun just like anyone else, just ironically with more steps involved. And
Yeah.
so I was thinking about this topic. And obviously, when I'm putting my outlines and my thoughts together for this podcast, disability is at the forefront of my mind. But I took a step back, a step, and I
Oh,
tried to consider this from just a normal human being's perspective. And so I thought, okay, how do we socialize as human beings? How do we learn to socialize? It's not like there's a genetic thing in our DNA that we're innately born with that teaches us how to socialize, right?
we have a desire for it.
We have a desire. And I think socializing is something we kind of learn from others. And as we grow up, we kind of just pick it up. And more specifically, I think most people would agree with me when I say that I think we learn on the fly in places like elementary school, kindergarten, right? You
Right.
see somebody else picking their nose, say, hey, man, I do that too. You sit next to them and pick your
Oh,
nose
that's
with
an
them.
actual phenomenon, mimicry in order
Mimicry.
to socialize.
Exactly. So I wanted to kind of talk about this because my experience is different from Uriel's experience, which is different from everybody else's experience. But I mean, growing up disabled, it puts you in interesting situations, I will say, when it comes to socializing. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but you know, I was put in regular, normal learning classes. Initially, they wanted to put me in special ed courses or classes, but I ended up going into regular classes, going to recess with everybody else. And I think that really helped me learn to navigate being in school and communicating and socializing with others. Um, I kind of got to play both sides though. I
Mm.
was in this really unique situation where I could go to the regular playground and play with kids that I went to class with and whatnot. But I also had the opportunity for some reason. I can't tell you why because it was so long ago. Um, I was allowed to go play at recess at the special ed playground on
Was it cooler?
it was way cooler. Like it was way more compact and it had like a rubber floor instead of concrete. The whole playground was covered. The ground was in rubber, and so it was all bouncy, and I could drive around in my chair. And
Oh, it was that weird bouncy turfy stuff.
yeah, it had a playground like swings, the monkey bars, um, slide, and then connected to it was a big old racetrack with tricycles. And so
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it was really cool. I would just go on there and like drive my chair, pretend like I was, Lightning McQueen.
Yeah. Nyom.
But the thing about this experience was I got the opportunity. They allowed me to not only use this playground for myself, but I could invite, for some reason, only up to like three other students that I wanted to come play with, right? And so it put me in this awkward situation where I had to kind of pick and choose every day who I wanted to hang out with. And that kind of, I think, taught me a lot about getting along with other people and socializing with other people because at a very young age, not only did I choose who I wanted to come, but I had to choose, you know, who I didn't want to come, and I had to tell them. And so that was always kind of awkward and
Oh, that's
stressful for
rough.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I have this really weird privilege where I have this special playground that's like way cooler than the regular playground.
Yeah.
And I have kids coming up to me like, "Hey Dom, can I like go play with you at the playground later?"
Mm,
And I had to be like, let me check my list.
we checked the list.
Like,
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, little Johnny. Scott's gonna be here today along with Amanda and Bryce. So
would you would you say that's kind of where the this thought of people seeing you, oh, how do I word it? People just saw you as a means to go to the cool playground, but not necessarily because they care about you as a person,
yeah, I don't know. And I
you
was too
know?
young. I was too young to tell. I'm sure to some degree that was prevalent. But yeah, it's like I said, it kind of puts me in this awkward position where kids want to hang out with me. Um, I was, popular, but was it for the reason I wanted it to be, you know?
Right. Because, yeah, that's such an odd position to be as a child. It's
Yeah.
you get to invite your best friends to the super special park,
Hmm.
this little own little cool thing. And then everybody wanted to go to it, but they
Yeah,
had to play teacher's pet or like kiss ass a little bit,
exactly.
you know. So it just feels like, well, at the time you probably could tell, but at the you probably couldn't fully grasp the subtle manipulations that these kids were on.
Yeah. Well, hindsight is always 2020, but it's hard to tell when you're like 7 or 8. So
Yeah, yeah.
I just remember one time, there was this kid that at the time I considered like my nemesis because he was a classmate of mine and he outscored me on the accelerated reading exams and like points
Um,
at the end of the year. And I was always like the best reader in the class and I had
hmm.
the most points up until this kid came into our class. And I remember him coming up to me and asking me if he could come to the playground. And I'm like, oh no, sorry, dude.
No.
I was so jaded because he outread me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's fun being a kid.
I had a I had a unique experience because I would get pulled out of some subjects
Hmm.
for special needs because I had an IEP and a learning disability in my IEP.
Hmm.
So what would happen was the subjects for such as math and English. I believe it was just math and English because Spanish was my first language in kindergarten for first grade, and then I had to go into the trenches and learn English by myself
Mm.
just from listening to people and osmosis and all that, which is insane that I was able to do that as a kid. I just my parents, everyone just threw me to the wolves and I figured it out. But I have vivid memories of early first grade where the teacher picked on me to go do a math problem on the whiteboard, and I
Mhm.
had no idea what was happening. I didn't know what she wanted from me, so I started drawing stick figures and stuff. I didn't know she was getting mad at me. She wanted me to do like 2 plus 5 or something, but I
And
couldn't
I
do it.
bet everybody thought that was hilarious in the class.
I don't remember. It's been a while. I don't. I remember everyone, all the kids, just kind of being uninterested. No
Mm.
one really seemed to care. But anyway,
Yeah, no, anyway, like that's a perfect example to bring up because it's like I'm saying, I think we kind of learn as we go in places like elementary school. Those are our first
yeah,
real interactions with other human beings, even though they may not be fully developed. Um, and so my experience with the whole special ed playground, it taught me from a very young age to be a really strong communicator, I think, because I had to communicate with my friends that I wanted to go into the playground with me, and I had to be able to be a firm and aggressive communicator, denying people to go to the playground with me. So I just wanted to kind of mention that little story and use that as a kind of backbone for the rest of the talk.
but it does matter. Like earlyhood socialization,
Right, right.
because what was trippy was spending half of my school day with special needs kids,
Hmm.
and half of them didn't really have any disability. Unfortunately, some of them just came from really bad households.
Yeah.
Like the parent situation was a little complicated, and they were good kids, but just a little angry at the world. You could see it.
Yeah.
And then the other half were people with cognitive disabilities. And then because I would attend those and not do regular math and English classes, I would always be singled out from other kids. So it would make it more difficult to make regular friends because you're seen as one of those people that goes to those
Mm.
weird special classes. You get pulled out of class for some reason.
Yeah.
And depending on how people see, like for example, the special needs playground, people see it as some sort of special privilege or kind of like, oh, how come he gets to not do math or English, that kind
There's
of
like a
thing.
certain mysticism that surrounds
Yeah,
it. Like, oh, it's the special playground.
but in the
Like just
classes,
the way we like describe it, the special ed playground,
yeah,
it inherently kind of communicates because of the word special being in the term that it's special, right?
right.
So it's interesting to think about.
But in the classes that I was allowed to take, this is where the socialization comes in, where I had acquaintances or kind of nemesis in a similar sense, but they were friends of mine.
Hmm.
But there's a bit of a communication thing because they were kind of my friend, but mostly acquaintances. But me wanting to be a part of their circle or be their friends made me competitive in the classes that I was allowed to take with regular people. So I scored really high in science and history.
Mm.
And I would normally get the highest grades in those classes, like at least top three,
Yeah.
with those friends that I've associated with. Why? Because well, we're social creatures, and I thought if I studied hard enough and I beat them in these subjects, they're more willing to talk to me.
Well, that's interesting to bring up because nowadays you love talking about history.
Yeah, because it shows. Yeah,
Whenever you're taking care of me, you always bring up like history into the conversation in some way, shape, or form.
because it's
And
all connected somehow.
yeah, no, I think that's a perfect thing to bring up because it's like I'm saying, when we kind of grow up learning as a kid, it's reflected in us as adults, I think. And so, you know, being able to go out with friends is a big motivator for me to want to go out.
Oh yeah.
And before we kind of talk more about that, I just I do want to address the challenges that people with disabilities may face with regard to going out, socializing, doing new things. And I think the kind of predominant problem or hurdle that people with disabilities may have to face is transportation, especially if you're in a chair. Uh, I think on average it costs 40 to $70,000 for a modified vehicle. If you're in
Right.
a power chair such as myself, you need the tie downs for the chair. And I know there's like a couple of different programs or like types of tie downs you can get. I think one of the really popular ones is the Easy Lift tie downs. I'm not exactly sure how those work. I think
I'm
they're
not sure
kind
how
of,
to describe it to the audience
yeah, I
because
don't
there's
know.
side loaders, rear loaders. We know what those terms are, but most of the audience might know, but
Yeah,
people that aren't aware of vehicle modifications might not know what we're talking about.
yeah. So for reference, like I have a Dodge Caravan with DMI modifications. Basically, and what that means is I have the Dodge van with the middle row of seats removed in the van, and it has a hydraulic system in it that allows it to lower the right side of the vehicle while extending a ramp that I can go up in my chair. And since those seats are removed in the middle, I can park my chair in the middle of the vehicle. And what else? It has a what would you call like the rows where the tie downs connect to?
The rows, as in the
Or
rows of seats, or
not the rows of seats, but like where the tie down connects to the vehicle itself.
they're kind of pulley system kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there are these attachments where you put the tie downs. The tie downs are they're the clamp kinds. There's a term for them, but honestly, it's eluding me right now. Your grandpa says them all the time. There's a specific name for those types of tie downs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's the thing where you have to crank it and then you push it in. I don't know. So we're bad at explaining
Don't take this out of context. Nobody better snip this.
cranking.
But yeah, so as you can kind of tell already, it's kind of a complicated system where if
It's
you're in
easier
a
in person.
if you're in a wheelchair yourself, like I am, there's no way you can do it by yourself. Like
No.
some people with spinal cord injuries, I know they have manual chairs they push themselves in. If they're like a paraplegic, they usually can push themselves and do self transfers to get into the driver's seat and drive. And a lot of times they'll fold their manual chair up and put it like in the passenger side seat, which just looks really difficult and like a pain in the ass to me as an outsider. But yeah, if you're in a power chair, if you're more of a quad that needs a lot more assistance, you're gonna need somebody to go with you wherever you go to help you tie yourself down, your chair, to help drive you. Like Uriel's driven me, he's tied down my chair. Um, so that's another aspect of it. There's all these tangibles that can kind of get in the way of someone with a disability being able to go out and do what they want to do, right? We kind of
Yeah.
touched on this a little bit, I think, in the episode with Chelsea talking about the nuances of the patient caregiver relationship. But if you need someone to go with you to go out, that can be a hurdle that you have to face too. Um, Not to mention the obvious money investment in a vehicle. And some people, they even pay their caretakers to go do stuff with them. Like I think Jen was talking about, she pays her caretakers a little bit more on the side so that they're more incentivized to work for her and go do stuff with her, right?
Yeah, which is an interesting position to be in.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, and then like another aspect of it is, if you have a medication schedule or a bowel program for people with spinal cord injuries, those are things that you have to do throughout the day or at the start of the day. And there's no kind of ifs, ands, or buts about it. You just have to do that stuff. For me, I've talked about this before. I have to do my breathing treatments twice a day. At the start of the day in the morning, I usually do my albuterol treatment and, take my medications around 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then again in the evening
Mm,
at the same time, right? And so I
yeah.
kind of have to be home to do those things.
Chelsea mentioned that too, where she she wants to stay out later and like party and like have some drinks and hang out with friends, but she needs to take medication that improves her quality of life at before bed, like at 9, 10 kind of stuff. So she has to get back by a certain time, and it's just
Right.
it makes it difficult.
It does. And so you kind of have to plan around stuff like that as an
Hmm.
individual with disability. You have to keep those things in mind and plan whatever you're doing around that stuff. Another kind of aspect of the challenges that we may face when going out and trying to do new things, meeting new people, I think are more intangible in nature. And I think one of the main issues we may face is just communication problems. On my little outline I have here, I literally wrote down that some people aren't the right height, as silly as it sounds.
Mm,
Something I've experienced when going out and meeting new people is if they're, tall, if they're standing up, they're physically farther from you. The distance between me and someone who's standing is more significant than two people standing next to each other, right?
Right.
And so I think that can kind of cause some basic communication problems. This idea that we study in the communication process is called noise. And so because there's a physical distance between you and somebody else when communicating, there's more opportunity for noise to get in the way. If you're out like at a bar, the room may be loud and people are going to be talking. And if I can't speak loudly enough for the other person to hear and understand me, there's going to be communicative issues, which is kind of a common thing for me. I'll be honest. I only have 40% lung function. And so I can't speak quite as loud or as loud as long as the average person without getting out of breath. Like even just talking right now on the podcast, I find myself getting out of breath. And that's just the way it is.
So tell us how you would like someone to approach you.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think the very basic answer to that is to just kind of treat us like a normal person. If you see someone in a chair or like with a visible disability, there's no need to like patronize or give special treatment. Um, I hate it when people kind of get on their knees or crouch to talk to me
How
because
often does that happen?
I won't say super often, but it's happened once or twice. And
Hmm.
it's not a good feeling. Like I don't want anybody to have to, break their back just to talk to me. And it makes me feel weird anyways. Like when someone crouches to talk to me, in my head, I'm like, oh, they want to kind of close that gap in the distance between us, right? That I was just talking about, which is cool. I appreciate it.
Probably a misconception might be they're trying to make you feel more comfortable, but I think it probably just
Mhm.
make you feel more awkward, right?
Right, because it reminds me like, oh, I'm short because I'm in a chair, and I've kind
Yeah.
of gone into this before, but I forget that I'm in a wheelchair a lot of the time. I forget about my disability. I don't think of myself as an individual with a disability. Like I'm just a person. And so it
Hmm.
goes back to what I'm saying. Like we just want to be treated like a normal person. Just have a normal conversation. Um, if you want to stop and say hi to me, say hi to me. Like it's cool. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. Just treat us like you would anyone else. Hey man, how's it going? You played the new Minecraft update? Stuff like that.
Mm. The classic Minecraft update. All right.
But yeah, I mean, and to kind of connect to what I've studied in my classes too, something that an article that we studied, I have it right here. Let me find it. An
Yes.
article that we went over in my class. It's by Deanna Fassett and Dana Morella, and it's titled "Remaking the Discipline, Making the Performative Accomplishment of Disability." And it's a really good read. It is something that really touched home for me as a person living with a disability. And a quote that I have written down from the article was, while someone might have a medical or physical condition that structures her or his experience, it is in her or his interactions with others that condition takes on meaning and becomes what our collective social environment would consider disability, with all the punishments and privileges that entails. And so I wanted to mention this quote because, yeah, it really hits the nail on the head for me. In more basic terms, what I interpret that quote as saying is that our social interactions with other people really shape how we view ourselves. If I go out and I have people patronizing me and I have people crouching and like getting on their knees just to talk to me, that's going to shape the way I view myself. Not only the way the world outside views me, but the way I view myself internally, right?
There you go. Yeah.
As if,
Right.
not that this would happen for me necessarily, but it it's what I'm trying to say is like I'm gonna start expecting possibly people to just start patronizing and
Right.
getting on their knees, giving me special treatment every time I go out, when that's obviously not going to happen. And those expectations are not realistic for me to think of.
Right. And I mean, I think one could argue that this is could be directly linked to the burden complex. Even like we did an episode on that, how this concept could lead to stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
or the opposite, or this sense of entitlement because you're so used to everybody doing stuff for you.
Yeah. No, it reminds me too of something else we studied in COM called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis.
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which is something that we study in COM. Um, it's kind of a point of contention for different scholars, but essentially the debate is whether or not our communication that we use shapes the way we view the world, or is it the way we view the world shapes our communication? And one of like the prime examples of
Oh, I
this,
see. Okay.
one of the prime examples of this, I believe, studied was in uh, what's the term? I'm blanking. The people that live in Alaska, like the natives to Alaska,
Oh gosh. I don't know the tribe. Inuit people? I
Inuit
could be
people.
wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. So their language, I think they have in their language
Ah,
over
snow.
a hundred different words or terms that describe snow.
Yes.
And so it's a really kind of well studied language and culture with regard to the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, because the communication that they use, a lot of it is the languages to do with snow. And so scholars argue, is it because there's just so much snow in their culture, in their lives, or is it because of them just needing so many words to describe snow?
I could see that because there's different textures and depending on what layer of snow you're at, there's going to be softer snow, harder snow, and you can compact snow to make it harder. You can
Mm-hmm.
compact snow to turn it into a brick. So
Right,
how do you describe a brick of snow? And then
right,
soft snow,
right.
and then muddy snow. It starts to make sense,
Yeah, and so I can't help but like find myself thinking about that with regard to disability too, in a lot
Right.
of situations. You know, it's not the same, but it's a similar kind of concept. You know, what interactions we find ourselves in, especially growing up, I think, really shape the way we view ourselves, and that is reflected in the communication we use too. But yeah, generally speaking, my kind of do's and don'ts, just what I said earlier, don't patronize people with disabilities. I don't think anyone necessarily tries to patronize. I
Now,
think it's just a pitfall that some people fall into.
I'm gonna throw a curveball at you.
Yeah.
How do you go about meeting new people? Any advice for those that are looking to go out, maybe?
Yeah. One of my biggest motivators for going out and meeting new people, just doing stuff in general outside, is are my friends. Like going out, doing things, going to a bar, going to get food somewhere. I think of those as very social things. And I wouldn't just go out to a restaurant by myself. To eat. I wouldn't just go out to a bar by myself to drink. Um, I think of those things as very like social aspects of life that people enjoy more when others join them. So, a lot of the times I go out with Uriel because she wants to go out and do stuff.
Oh yeah.
Uh, we went out to Danish days here in Solvang a
Hmm.
few weeks ago, and it
Which is,
was
I'll admit, I feel that's something that neither of us would normally do.
never in my
Right?
lifetime, just by myself, would I go to Danish days to go to Danish days.
Yeah.
For one, there's just not a lot to do. Like it's just stands that you could go buy food, buy alcohol. If you're feeling adventurous, you can go throw an axe
Oh yeah, for
um
$10, I think.
for $10.
So, we're really underselling it, huh? There's a Lego tent, so
There's a Lego tent?
yeah,
Really? I
yeah.
didn't see that.
But the day I was like 16, 17, and I realized, oh, it's kind of weird being in a Lego tent. I'm about to be 18, and like all the people here are 11, 12. Maybe I should stop going to the Lego tent. And then I've never been since.
It's funny.
That's when
But
it
yeah,
ended.
it's not something, that I would just go do by myself because I would find it boring. But because Uriel wanted to go and check it out, I was like, sure, why not? Like get some sun, go out, do something different, check out the tents, people watch, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's a big motivator for me is my friends encouraging me to go out and do stuff together.
Also, also online communities too. That's fairly popular because of the lack of mobility, or
Hmm.
sometimes some people don't have the ease of access to transportation. Online communities are a big thing,
Yeah, no, for sure.
especially for fantasy football,
Fantasy football. Yep,
right?
that's a big
Because
one.
that's in season. I know you
That
got
is
a
in season.
fantasy team going on.
But I can't talk about that. I'm 1-3. So
Oh,
we're gonna table that discussion.
oh no.
But yeah, no, I like fantasy football, and I'm in my brother's league. It's not his league, but it's a friend of his that runs it. And I really enjoy fantasy football because I love football, A, but B, it's it's a good opportunity to practice your trash talking too, I'll admit.
Oh yeah.
So again, like finding things that you really enjoy, um, and engaging in those communities, whether they're in person or online, like a fantasy football league. They even have like fantasy basketball and baseball leagues too.
Well, I
So
mean,
that's a good way to make new friends, meet new people if you're into sports and stuff like that. I think one of the most popular online communities is probably Reddit, right?
yeah,
A lot
yeah,
of people
yeah. Because I think
use
Twitter's on
Reddit.
fire supposedly,
Yeah,
or it's gaining less traction and a lot less popular at the moment,
yeah.
from what I've heard. So there's a mass Twitter exodus, and most people are just gravitating back to Reddit.
X it is. Yeah.
No, it's Twitter. It's forever Twitter. That's a dumb name. I ain't calling it X. It sounds scandalous, a little PG-13, that name. But anyway,
I feel you. Yeah.
but yeah, Reddit's a great place too.
Reddit's cool.
Could to post your thoughts, like contribute to certain opinions, especially like, there's so many disabled communities on Reddit too,
So many.
right? Where people are just even IHSS communities,
Yeah.
where we could just ask people IHSS questions when the office is a little slow.
I had a friend asking me on behalf of her daughter, about Arizona State University
Oh, that's
and
right.
the accessibility there. And I said, I don't really know because I was online. I know a lot about getting accommodations on for online school and stuff, but I'm really not that knowledgeable on how accessible the campus is itself. So, I recommended there's an ASU subreddit. Like you might start there and just filter by searching that Reddit for disability and see what pops up. So
I feel the need to
what's
say
that?
this because I feel the need to say this because back in the day when I was young and spry and I was playing in a couple of bands and doing music scene stuff,
Mhm.
um, when you're involved in a community or want to enter a community, note that most people are really open to newcomers, man. It's all a process. People would prefer you to just be there and just hang out than not be there because it's just a bunch of people just talking about the things that they care about.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of negative reactions with people, but I want people to understand that that shouldn't deter you from not joining the community because every community kind of has those bad apples, and it's no fault on the community. It's mostly the fault of that individual because maybe something in their life isn't going quite right and they kind of sour everyone they talk to, but that shouldn't be, you shouldn't, if you encounter negative people like that, that shouldn't be that usually that's not the actual community itself. It's just that one person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to go out and try to socialize and then things are awkward and they feel bad about themselves. Note that what's most important is that you're going out and you're trying and you're doing it.
Yep.
Don't have one awkward or negative experience deter you,
Yeah.
You just got to keep doing it.
Yeah, perfect example. I'm a big fan of Reddit and I'm a big fan of video games. Like,
Oh, that can get a little toxic.
yeah, I was playing Poke MMO, which is uh a really, really good game if you're into Pokemon and MMOs.
Fun.
Basically it combines like uh
Five.
five different Pokemon
Yeah.
games into one big game.
Joe
It's an
tomorrow.
MMO. It's Johto Day now.
Is
It's
it Joe
Johto's
now?
out. Yeah. For a long time it wasn't. That's the joke. Um, but yeah, so like one time I had posted on the Poke MMO subreddit a question I had because a big part of that game is capturing Pokemon and selling them to other players online. That way you can like start making money to buy other in-game things that you need to progress. It has its own economy. But I got like all these negative comments on my question, like just look it up in the what do they call it? The GTL, the global trade link.
Oh yeah, you're asking genuine questions like, bro, just look it up.
Yeah, everybody just tells you like to go screw off and look it up yourself instead of actually being helpful, right?
Well,
And
to
there's
be fair,
people like that online and in real, like in person, like it's unavoidable. But
I
then,
mean,
I've had other really good experiences on different subreddits. Like, I'm a big fan of dinos. I go crazy for dinos. One of my favorite dinosaur games, Ark Survival Evolved. I posted on the subreddit a picture in game of my creatures I was bringing to the boss fight.
oh yeah,
Sorry,
everyone
I
is
was
dogging on you.
yeah,
Not
and
everyone, but
everybody, no, 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 everybody was really cool. They're like, "Oh, sick, sick rock drakes!
some
Like you're gonna
people
do
were
great."
dogging on you.
Yeah, no, it was cool. I got like 160 upvotes. I was so
Oh,
proud of
let's
myself.
go.
Had
Yeah.
like 75 comments. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm making it in life. Everybody liked my picture of my rock drakes and Ark.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of like Uriel was saying, no matter where you go, you're gonna find good apples and bad apples. It's about not about letting the bad apples kind of get you down and discouraging you
Like
from meeting new people.
a majority
Right.
of communities are positive unless there's specific unless
Yeah.
there's specific hate communities. Maybe don't get involved with those.
Yeah, I don't recommend joining like the neo-Nazi subreddit. I don't even know if there is one, but if there is, don't.
Oh, there totally is. I read it's crazy. So, but
Yeah. So I think just to kind of summarize, there are a lot of challenges to going out and meeting new people, whether it's in person or online. But what I've found is knowing what motivates me to meet new people is really helpful, right? And for me, that's my friends like Uriel and knowing, you know, what I'm interested in and seeking out people that are also interested in that same stuff, like we just talked about. Go
mhm.
Dinos.
Go yeah. Sounds like a sports team. Go Dinos. Oh, there's a sport. The Raptors, basketball.
Exactly.
Right. I'm learning, man. I'm
Gonna
learning. See, I'm like slowly joining the sports community
be
through osmosis.
a sport
Through
head in no time.
oh, all I know is that Kirk Cousins is good in fantasy.
Kirk is
That's
good.
what I've learned, and I feel.
No, he was really good the first 3 weeks this season,
Oh no!
but he dropped like a 9 point dud this week. So
Gosh,
we still love you, Kirk. if you're listening. I doubt it, but if
Yeah,
you
if
are,
you're listening.
even though I'm a 49er fan, I got mad respect for Kirk.
Oh shoot. Announcing your side. Your
My team.
your oh yeah. From public. It's gonna be crazy.
So yeah, I'm just trying to lead by example. I'm showing people that you can socialize and give
Yeah.
your
No.
deepest opinions, and it's all
I
good.
said all that because I know there could be a bit of anxiety or a little bit of fear
Yeah,
in pushing oneself to go out and socialize. And it's a phenomenon that doesn't discriminate. Able-bodied people struggle with it.
exactly.
Cognitive people struggle with it. Physical disability people struggle with it. But as you specified earlier, there could be uh there exist factors that could limit one with a physical disability or a mental disability to go out and
Hmm.
communicate and talk to new people.
Yep,
Because it's fun meeting new people. Because every time you, it's like it's a spider web. Every time you talk to someone, it creates a different thread to I don't know whatever.
exactly.
You
You
never
never
know.
know who you're gonna meet. You never know what topics are gonna come up, and you never know what's gonna come of a new experience. And I think that's the beauty of it. That's what inspires me to go out and meet new people, especially when I'm with Uriel. Anything can happen when I'm with Uriel.
Oh, you're gonna make oh gosh, the audience are gonna think that I'm crazy.
No, I just remember like a few weeks ago we were out in town walking around, and he saw like these bus drivers, and he said,
Oh yeah.
"Let's go talk to the bus drivers." And I'm like, uh, okay.
Well, because I always see bus drivers driving, but I never get a chance to actually talk to one. Like here they are. There's two of them right there.
See, there you go. It's just
It's crazy.
his excitement is contagious.
It's I already forgot what I asked. What did I ask?
I
Do you
don't,
remember?
I don't remember.
They were picking up people from a hotel for a wedding, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, something like that.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Any other questions before we wrap up, bro? Any final comments, concerns, grievances?
Um, yeah. Maybe not the best of questions because, like I'm always against substance abuse, but does
Whoa,
al does alcohol help a little bit to socialize? Does it loosen you
uh,
up?
just alcohol.
Well, because I
Nothing
feel
serious.
a lot of people don't, because I feel that might be a misunderstanding between alcohol and physical disabilities. Obviously, I don't know everything.
Hmm.
For example, alcohol in relations to cerebral palsy, alcohol in relation to spinal cord injury, SMA.
Yeah, I'll preface this by saying I don't know anything either.
Because
I don't know how it affects other people.
socializing for a lot of people usually involves drinking, and that's always been
Hmm.
a cultural
Yeah,
phenomenon with humanity,
yeah,
where there's
yeah.
people, there's drinks.
Hmm. I think personally, it affects me just like it would anybody else, like an able-bodied person, when it comes to like reducing anxiety. Um, Something I learned in my public speaking class that I took is, it's actually kind of helpful to drink a glass of beer, or I mean, a glass of wine, or like have a beer before speaking because it just reduces your overall anxiety.
It increases my anxiety, let me tell you, because I'm
Really?
such a lightweight. One beer and I'm already buzzed. It's real
Dude.
bad, and then it's really bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, I enjoy having like a beer, two tops. If I want to get crazy, I go to three. But
Three? Or I'd
I'm only like
die.
120 pounds, so
Oh
it
shoot.
doesn't take too much to get me goofy.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, I enjoy like a glass of wine or a beer once in a
Okay, we're not
while when I'm
advocating
out.
for drinking here. It's just a
No, no.
question. I was just curious.
Yeah. Um, More specifically, if like for my SMA though, I do find that when I drink a little, like just like I said, one glass of wine or like a beer, um, not only does my anxiety go down a little bit, but you know, I feel like I can move a little bit easier. Normally, when I'm complete,
Looser?
yeah, when I'm completely sober, I always kind of feel this, weight. on my arms and my legs when I'm moving, because of my SMA. And when I'm, a little buzzed or tipsy, whatever you want to call it, it's a little bit easier to move. It feels to me like my movements aren't so heavy. I don't feel so heavy. Like that weight is on my arms. And so I think that inherently kind of also reduces my anxiety too, because a lot of my anxiety is like rooted in, my ability to physically do stuff for myself, what little I can do. But that being said, um, everybody's different. Like I was saying, I can't speak on behalf of people with cerebral palsy or with spinal cord injuries. There's a lot that
Right. Even
differs.
me, the assumption that alcohol would have a different effect on them because I just
Yeah,
don't know enough.
right.
Because I know alcohol. I don't know. I don't want to say anything crazy, right?
For sure.
Because it affects your nervous system and all that, and like your blood, all that circulation. It does a lot of stuff.
Yeah. But yeah,
Well,
so I'm a I'm a fan of alcohol in moderation.
again, we're not advocating the drink now.
Moderation.
Okay.
Moderation.
Moderation. Do you have any burning, desiring questions for me?
Mm, no, you mentioned it.
Uh-oh.
Uh, what's it like going out with me, I guess is my question. Like,
Exciting. It's a little fun
oh shucks.
because um I'm usually pretty introverted and I have to kind of force myself to message people or I have to remind myself to message people or hopefully they message me first to go out and socialize. So it's one of those things where I'm really used to just going on my own and just walking around by myself. And then when I meet someone out in the wild, I just talk to them. I'm a social person, but I also like my alone time. I don't know how to describe it a little,
Yeah.
but yeah. And the bus driver thing, I think an ending note is that I'm a person that really gives into curiosity. Like if I get a curious thought or some sort of I'm the kind of person where I see someone, a question forms in my head, and it's this pulling, this tearing where if I don't ask this question, it's gonna be in the back of my mind forever, and I'm gonna have regret that I didn't ask said question.
And that's why Uriel's intrusive thoughts always win.
Hey, I wouldn't say nothing intrusive thoughts are the bad ones where you're imagining like terrible like things to be on that person.
I don't know about that. I
Is
think
it?
intrusive thoughts are just, you know, what some people might consider inappropriate to like say out loud.
Well, usually my questions and my thoughts are pretty innocent. It's just when I see someone's like, oh, like I like your hair. What inspired you to do the hair that way?
Well, like
They're pretty innocent.
perfect example, the story of how we met, right? You like
Oh,
sat
with
down with
my
me,
yeah.
you're like touching my leg. Can you feel that?
Yeah, well, because like
Like
it
that's
was
what I mean. Like
curious. I had to know. If I walked out of that classroom not asking, I would have regretted it.
it's
It's like, oh shoot, because I wonder if he could feel his legs. So I had to find out.
gotta know, gotta know. But yeah, all right then. Well, I think we'll end on that note.
Yeah,
As always, if you liked what we had to say today, please leave us a rating, give us a nice little review if you're feeling up to it, and be sure to
5 stars
share.
only.
Yeah, 5 stars only, or else.
I'll accept 4.5. Maybe Dom won't, but
Yeah, I'm kind of a perfectionist. Sorry. But yeah, be sure to share with your friends and your family. If you're not already, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Disability Myth. And of course on YouTube as well. We have the podcast up there. And yeah, I think that's about it, folks.
yeah.
Peace and love.
and may the force be with you.
Bye.